Today I'm reacting to your wrestling hot takes. Hot takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, good or bad, about the current world of professional wrestling. So if you want to be part of next week's hot takes video, make sure that you're following me on X. The link will be in the description of this video. I ask for your hot take on there every single Friday, so just keep a lookout for that tweet. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. As you can tell, the nice edits aren't here, and that's because the editor is busy again. Who does he think he is, having a life? All right, let's read your stupid shit. They made it seem like there was turmoil between Johnny and Tommaso on Raw. It would be stupid to split them up right now. I agree with you. It would be dumb to split them up. Finally, the tag team division actually exists on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown separately. This is the time where you actually need cohesive tag teams and actually have enough bodies to be able to fill that tag team division. So to split Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano at a time where you finally have a growing tag team division on Monday Night Raw doesn't entirely make a heck of a lot of sense. So I hope that they don't do it just yet, but I do think that inevitably we're gonna have to have singles run from both of these guys. Becky winning the Battle Royal was the only choice. Liv beating Becky sometime at SummerSlam or at another pay-per-view would do wonders as a foundation for Rhea to get her title back. Yeah, I think people are being entirely too harsh on the decision to have Becky Lynch win the championship. Here's the thing, if anyone aside from Becky Lynch wins this title, that title reign is going to be null and void, and a lot of people are going to think and just say that, hey, this championship doesn't count because you didn't beat Rhea Ripley. And it would be a shame for Liv Morgan to finally win this world championship that's eluded her for the last couple of years, only for people to say, well, you didn't really beat the monster of the women's division in Rhea Ripley. However, Becky Lynch, who cares if we say that about Becky Lynch, because Becky Lynch is already a legend, first ballot WWE Hall of Famer. She's done it all, main evented WrestleMania. So who cares if her title reign is one where she didn't beat Rhea, because at the very least we can have the next person that wins the championship, at the very least they can win it from someone with credibility like Becky Lynch, which is why I like the idea of waiting for Liv Morgan to win it at a bigger event in a moment when Becky Lynch has helped elevate this championship from being vacant to at the very least being defended by a first ballot Hall of Famer. NXT should have had a representative for the draft. They're trying to treat it as a third brand and it got no picks during SmackDown. I was expecting something from them at least. I felt like we were cheated. Was that not false advertisement? Maybe we misunderstood. The way I understood things was that NXT was eligible for this draft to actually bring people from the main roster over to Tuesday nights. And it makes sense with Tuesday nights now going over to the CW network where NXT is going to get a heck of a lot more eyeballs. So it does make sense to get these recognizable names from the main roster. It's a little bit weird. At the very least, on Friday Night SmackDown, they didn't have any picks. Maybe on Raw, maybe on Tuesday, NXT actually gets some picks. Who knows? But it is a little bit weird that they created this expectation that NXT was going to be represented in this draft, but they just haven't been yet. Worst WWE draft ever. Look, it's only one night so far, and was it disappointing? Yes. And you know what's funny? As the draft started, they basically spoiled it for us that it was going to be a very boring draft, because before the very first pick, Triple H comes out and says, just so you guys know, it is important for these shows to protect the assets that they already have. So, you know, pretty much expect the same people that are already on that show to get drafted by that show. They pretty much warned us, and that's exactly what happened, with very little actually changing in terms of superstars going from one show to another. That was entirely disappointing. I'm 100% with you. I can't say that we can call this the worst WWE draft yet, because there's still another whole day, another whole 3 hours of WWE drafting. And there's also the draft picks that they do off the air, because they did some after SmackDown, and those were nice, like Baron Corbin going to SmackDown. That should have been televised in my opinion. Frankly, that was like the most important pick of the entire Friday night draft. I'm personally happy that LA Knight is going to stay on SmackDown. He can have that much anticipated feud with Logan Paul, who, as the current US champion, was fixed to SmackDown before the WWE roster change. Yes, I actually had LA Knight going to Monday Night Raw in my draft predictions video. However, I also had Logan Paul going over there before it was announced that champions couldn't switch brands. By the way, that's kind of lame. I feel like champions should have been eligible for this draft. Whatever, I digress. But I do think that LA Knight should be on the same show as Logan Paul. As you said, I do feel like that is an inevitable feud that we should get at some point down the road. However, I like like the idea of LA Knight being part of Monday Night Raw to get a chance to maybe become a top babyface over there and get separated away from Cody Rhodes, who's the de facto far and away top babyface of Friday Night SmackDown. Still, I'm with you. I'm okay with him staying on SmackDown if it does mean that future feud with Logan Paul. Jey Uso being the #1 pick for Raw was horrendous. Seth Rollins definitely should have been ahead of him and undoubtedly #1. You can also make the case for LA Knight and Randy should have been ahead of him too. When you start to use real sports logic, then yes, you can start to break things down, like Ricochet going in the 3rd round. Like, that's ridiculous in my opinion. That's more ridiculous than Jey Uso being the #1 pick. But you're right. Again, when you're trying to put the real sports logic, you wouldn't reach for somebody like Jey Uso to be your #1 pick. But hey, you know, they have a plan. They have clearly intentions to have Jey Uso be one of the top babyfaces of Monday Night Raw. And the entire draft pool wasn't available on Friday Night SmackDown either. But yeah, it is weird that somebody like Seth Rollins would get picked after Jey Uso. You're right about that. WWE Speed seems unnecessary to me. I like the aspect of bringing in social media, but I don't think many people have that interest in it. Here's the thing. Clearly, WWE Speed is not for you. It's meant for an entire different audience, maybe for more casual viewers, or maybe viewers that just want to get that quick bite of adrenaline when it comes to their WWE wrestling. If you like more traditional wrestling, longer matches, then just watch regular WWE. WWE Speed is not meant for you. It's just a supplementary show that's not going to take anything away from you. So I don't think that it falls under the category of unnecessary. I think it just falls under the category of unnecessary to you. And to prove that, here's the next hot take. The WWE Speed matches have been one of the most interesting things happening in the WWE right now. You see what I mean? Different strokes for different folks, people. I just like that we're getting variety in terms of how we can consume our professional wrestling. And I think that WWE Speed just adds another layer to that and gives us another opportunity to enjoy this medium that we already love. And having it be spread on social media exclusively where so many people already are at pretty much all points of the day, I think is really smart. I think it's a great way to bring in either casual viewers, maybe people who fell out of wrestling, or maybe brand new wrestling fans in general through social media with quick bite-sized matches. I think it's a smart move to have Speed.
See, look at this.
Oh my God! Holy shit!
Now, Phoenix.
Did you see that? That was a sneak peek of the Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This is a series where the patrons get to vote on 3 matches per week for Sancho and myself to react and review for your viewing pleasure. This week we're doing The Rock versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2002, a TNA X Division match from 2007, and a crazy 7-way Lucha Underground match from 2015. You're also gonna get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early. You're gonna get the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, and so much more. We already have over 1,000 patrons supporting over there, so thank you so much for your support. So if you want to catch all these series and vote on which matches we do next week, make sure that you head over to patreon.com/SantiZap. The link will be at the top of the description of this video, or it will be the pinned comment as well. Go check it out. I think you're gonna like it. Back to the video. Jey Uso versus Damian Priest may be the most unpredictable match of Backlash so far. Jey Uso definitely deserves the win, and there's plenty of main event storylines for him, but it would kind of suck if Priest only had a reign of a few weeks. I'm with you. I do think that out of all of the current matches labeled for Backlash, this is the most interesting one and the one where I have the most question marks, because I do think that Jey Uso is a very, very likely champion at some point or another on Monday Night Raw. Additionally, Monday Night Raw used their first overall pick on Jey Uso, so clearly they're making us wanting to believe that Jey Uso is a major asset for the future of Monday Night Raw. So I don't blame you for thinking that he could win the World Heavyweight Championship from Damian Priest, even if Damian Priest has only been champion for a couple of weeks. I don't think that we are in an era where we're gonna have championship reigns, at the very least for world titles, for just a couple of weeks anymore. I do believe that these championship reigns, even if you're a transitional champion, I really believe that the term of transitional champion is gonna change from being a champion for 4 weeks to being a champion for 6 months. And I do think that Damian Priest might fall in that category of losing the championship maybe at like SummerSlam or something. But I also don't see Jey Uso losing at Backlash clean, because clearly Monday Night Raw is setting him up to be one of their top stars. So yeah, this is a really unpredictable match, even if it is so close after WrestleMania, which is why it's the most intriguing matchup on this entire Backlash card. If Dragunov doesn't get drafted, it will be one of Triple H's worst booking decisions. I do believe that Ilia Dragonov should be drafted to WWE, whether it's Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, But I also know that NXT traditionally, if you lose the championship, you don't go to the main roster right away. When Braun Breaker lost the championship, he stayed on NXT for almost an entire year. Same with Carmelo Hayes, same with Tiffany Stratton, and Ilia Dragonov just lost the NXT championship. So I wouldn't be surprised if NXT wants to retain Ilia Dragonov, maybe even past SummerSlam. But I do think that he's done it all and he's just so main roster ready that I think it would be a miss. I don't know if it'd be his worst booking decision ever, but I do think it would be a miss to not bring up Ilia Dragonov right away. This draft was a little underwhelming. I was expecting bigger changes, but I am happy to see Hayes coming up. Not only am I also happy that Hayes is coming up, but I'm also happy with how they immediately put him into a very, very prominent match and potentially maybe a longer storyline with Cody Rhodes. I think it was very, very smart. I do believe that NXT, WWE, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels have learned from their past mistakes with NXT call-ups. I think they saw what happened with poor Cameron Grimes, where they just put him out there and he just floundered. He just basically drowned when they gave him no story and nothing really of substance. I do think that these NXT call-ups, like the Braun Breakers of the world, like Kiana James, who was recently called up, like Carmelo Hayes, whoever gets called up is going to have something ready for them immediately upon them landing on the main roster, so that at the very least they have a lifeline, an opportunity to be able to impress you and me and everyone at home to the point where we have to demand them to see them more on regular TV. And I think this was a great introduction of Carmelo Hayes. Frankly, this is how they should have done it with Braun Breaker too. These like 30-second squash matches for Braun Breaker, frankly for me, aren't doing it. But this was a great first impression. Not quite first, but it's supposed to be a first impression of Carmelo Hayes. Bianca and Jade are probably going to win the tag titles, but there isn't anyone that could realistically beat them when they do become champions. That actually is the fundamental problem with them becoming champions. They're going to win these championships, and there's nothing that anyone could do to stop them. And when they do win the championships, who the hell could come together to actually beat them? It would have to be a team of like Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair to even have a chance to take out Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. So it is going to make the women's tag team division have a significant power imbalance. However, having Jade and Bianca in the tag team division also brings that women's tag team division more eyeballs, which is also a win in that situation. I do think that inevitably they would lose the titles because there's some sort of altercation between the two to set up a bigger singles feud between the two. I think that's the only way that we could possibly see these two losing the tag championship, kind of like Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler did last year. With Ludwig Kaiser turning on Vinci, Imperium should add Ilia Dragonov to their heel faction. I get the gut reaction to want to add Ilia Dragonov, but Ilia Dragonov has been the one that was fighting Imperium before even anyone knew of Walter or Gunther on the main roster. I want to see on opposing sides Gunther and Ilia Dragonov. I personally don't want to see Ilia Dragonov on Imperium. I understand the desire to want to pull the trigger because when it comes to his European roots, he just sort of fits the mold. But I think I would prefer sooner rather than later to get Gunther versus Ilia Dragonov personally. Locking the champs to the brand that they're already on has really done the entire draft a disservice. I 100% agree. I mean, we would have probably expected the brands to draft their own champions as is, but it would have been nice to at the very least have some uncertainty going into the draft. Like, ooh, maybe the mid-card title goes over to a different brand, etc. But yet losing the titles in this draft really does take a little bit of the allure. I still remember the drafts back in the Ruthless Aggression era with like John Cena getting drafted on the first night of the draft over to Raw, and then Batista being sent over to SmackDown on the last night of the draft. So it does lose some of that drama. So I agree with you here. Roman withdraws from this year's draft and being a free agent is a good move, but I actually hope to see him stay in SmackDown. While I think you might be misinterpreting what he said, I don't think that he's a free agent. I think Paul Heyman said that he is voluntarily removing himself from the draft and staying on SmackDown. So I do believe that Roman Reigns is still a SmackDown superstar. At the very least, that's how I'm interpreting it. So I'm going to open it up for you guys in the comments to either say I'm right or the person that left this tweet is right. I might be wrong. They should have kept the Wolf Dogs going and have them win the tag titles. Good way to introduce Braun and reintroduce Baron. I get it. Yeah, I think it would have been nice, especially because I do believe that that they aren't doing the greatest job with introducing Braun Breaker to the main roster. However, immediately having Baron Corbin go up and team up with Braun Breaker completely throws out the plans that they clearly already have in place for Braun Breaker, which is for him to go on this crazy Goldberg undefeated streak. So it does interfere with the current plans, but we know how good the Wolf Dogs things was, but maybe we'll get it down the line. If anything, look, I'm just happy that Baron Corbin reinvented his career to the point where people are excited to see him again on SmackDown. Gunther should win King of the Ring and be pushed for the world title as soon as possible. We know that he can hold the title for a long time. Let's see the general shine. Of course, now here's the thing. I'm going to add a little bit of extra sauce to your tweet here, and I would like the King of the Ring to get an automatic world championship opportunity, SummerSlam, Clash of the Castle, Money in the Bank, whatever it might be. I do think that we need more than just a title of being a King of the Ring. I think that there needs to be some stake, something of substance for people to want to be the King of the Ring, something that comes afterwards, because if there's nothing beyond that, then King of the Ring just kind of starts and ends at the King of the Ring PLE, and I want it to mean something more beyond just that PLE date. I do think that Gunther is a great choice. I think that this is a great way to transition him from being an Intercontinental Champion to being a world title competitor. I'm with you here. Kiana James could and should be a top heel on Raw. Yes, and yes. Here's the thing. There is a massive gap right now on both Raw and SmackDown for natural born heels. There's so many people that could be heel or babyface. Really, the only major player that is a pure, like from beginning to end heel is Nia Jax, because even Rhea Ripley at this point is just so damn well liked that when she comes back, she's probably gonna be a babyface. Kiana James could be a fantastic career heel, just like somebody like Blair Davenport. There is a gap. There is a need for a character like Kiana James. So I do think that she's gonna be a big player on Raw. I feel like WWE is pushing Jey Uso to be, quote, the guy on Raw, and I'm not feeling it. I wish Finn Balor was Damien's first opponent, especially with all of the PLEs that will take place overseas. I do think we should at some point get Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, but I do think that that would be pushing it too quickly. You know, Triple H is not about that. Triple H is about letting things slowly build up to overall become this like super heated thing that you're so excited to see, and eventually that's gonna have to be the thing that he builds to. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor would be such a huge money match, but you can't pull the trigger on it so quickly after Damian Priest wins the title. I think that you need to build that slowly over time. If Carmelo wins the United States title, he should bring back the US Open Challenge. God, I miss that deeply. Here's the thing, I wouldn't hate him bringing back a US Open Challenge. I wouldn't hate anyone bringing back the US Open Challenge, but you're just looking for nostalgia. The reason why the US Open Challenge was so special, it was because it was John Cena. It was because it was this first ballot Hall of Famer, arguably GOAT, should be on the face of Mount Rushmore, coming down to the mid-card and allowing other people who are trying to rise and trying to make a name for themselves and getting to make a name for themselves against John Cena. So it was a John Cena thing. It was John Cena that made it special. It wasn't just because it was the US title available to potentially be won every single Monday Night Raw. It was the allure of somebody like Sami Zayn, an unknown, coming up and getting the John Cena rub. With Carmelo Hayes instantly getting a huge match against Cody Rhodes after getting called up from the main roster, I hope this year WWE push the NXT talent that get called up straight away like they have with Braun Breaker, maybe have them win Money in the Bank or something. I do think that we're going to see NXT talent get a big push in 2024 and in 2025. A lot of people are calling for, hey, let's get this next generation up and going, but I do think that for the next generation to really flourish, we need the current generation to really be established as the head, as the giant of this new era of professional wrestling for the new generation, like Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Tiffany Stratton, Kiana James, whatever it might be, for them to topple those giants. It'll feel so much more special, but I do think that NXT is going to be treated right this time around. They should give Stratton the title at Backlash. Paul needs to usher in this new generation, and this is a true way to state the future is here. I agree and disagree. I think it might be too quickly to put it on Tiffany Stratton. I think that you need to continue to allow Bayley to help build prestige and inevitably give Tiffany Stratton the victory, maybe in that one-on-one atmosphere, because we do have the ability to have Bayley still walk out of Backlash as the champion without needing to pin Tiffany Stratton, because this is a triple threat match. So I do think that it would be better for Tiffany Stratton to win this a little bit further down the line when it's a one-on-one environment. Baron Corbin being drafted to SmackDown was literally the best pick of the night. I agree with you. I don't know why it happened off screen. It 100% should have happened on TV. All right, folks, thank you so much for submitting your hot takes this week. Apologies for this video being so late if you happen to be watching it on the day of, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.